All right, so this is a big topic, but I'll try to bring it down a little bit more concise. This is a lot of what's wrong with American basketball. Now, I've been saying this for a few years now, and don't get me wrong, American basketball still leads the way, right? I'm proud of all the individual skills we've developed, all the players that continue to dominate, but the development system, it's not ideal. And even Adam Silver is saying this. He's realizing it's a big issue.
It's an important question, I think, where we're going in terms of youth basketball. You know, close to 30% of the league of players born outside the United States, it's clear that the development is very different in many of those programs outside the United States. More of a focus on practice, less of a focus on games, which seems to be the opposite of many of the youth programs in the United States. They're coming into the league incredibly skilled, but that doesn't necessarily translate to being team basketball players.
So here's what I think. First off, winning trumps development, even at super young level. So parents see the short term. They prepare for the game that weekend or to win at this age. They get in a cycle of more games and more games for more wins and to get a higher ranking versus staying dialed in, playing the long game and trying to develop for years down the line. In Europe and beyond, most players are playing a game for every 4 to 5 practices or skills developments throughout the week. Whereas here, it's 4 to 5 games over the weekend, rest a few days from that tournament, maybe do a couple practices, and then you're right back to that next tournament. Oh, and rarely do players play up here. Most other places, if you're good, you're gonna play up. Here, not, I'd rather stay down and win.
Dobrich, step back, three-pointer for the game, yeah!
Number 2 is that most time, the time that is spent on training is largely on individual skills. Of course, this is valuable. Players here develop an insane amount of individual skills, so this should probably remain in large part. But many players spend probably 90% of their training time on their ball handling, on their separation moves, on finishing at the rim. And part of this is just the individualistic culture we have here in the States. Right? We like everything to be more about the individual versus the group. But training culture is now driven by what's cool because cool sells. And players are now seeing and learning 5 ISO moves that are going to kill your defender versus watching real hoop, learning how to make the game easier as a team, and playing more realistic basketball. That's a problem. Number 3 is the nature of the games that we do play. Look, games aren't bad. In fact, we need them to get good at basketball. And I think most of training should be live with defense anyway. But when the games are won based on being perfect, since winning is the priority, and 2, often coached by people who don't really teach the game, it's not ideal. Young players rarely just go and play unstructured pickup anymore. I sound like an old head, but shit, it's the case. In pickup games, they can try new things, they can play against older players, they can figure things out themselves, nor do they play in practice games or scrimmage games where, yes, it's coached, but they also feel a little bit more comfortable screwing up and trying new things. They're always in front of their parents, playing in big gyms, and usually pretty ugly styles of basketball. Also, note that in other countries, rarely do players specialize in basketball from a young age. They play other sports, and therefore they develop outside general skills from these donor sports that come back to help them move and see the game better. And they learn from a young age that basketball isn't everything. And this last one here I actually just thought of right after I finished the video, but I couldn't leave it out. And it's just that there seems to be more joy in international hoops. Okay, I know that's a massive generalization, and I know so many guys and girls in the US who are in love with the game. But I've traveled to over 25 countries to experience basketball, and I'll say the average player in the States takes it for granted a bit more, compared to the average player internationally, who usually seems to find more pure joy with it, simply because it's not as big of a thing. It's not something, almost everyone does. So gym time, coaching, all that, they're not going to take these resources for granted. They're not going to take the game for granted. But if you're a hooper in the US who loves the crap out of the game like me, don't get mad at it. I know y'all are out there in big numbers too. So what are my short suggestions to fix this? Well, in terms of training, let's try to develop the individual skill set that separates American hoopers with team-based training and practices so that they're actually prepared for real hoops, not just making cool moves against cones. Let's play more small-sided games, actually train defense, and learn how to apply these individual skills in a simpler manner. And just encourage kids to go hoop at the park, develop the dog in them, and have a place to experiment there. 2, we need more programs that are willing to develop players rather than just selling winning and exposure. At Adapt Academy, for example, we're taking on a more European model where players will spend all week learning, training the game the right way, scrimmaging, watching film, and then the games, they'll actually mean something because they're not playing 20 a month. They'll still get exposure, but that's after they get good. And this is rare to find in a program. Don't get me wrong, some do, and I'll definitely give them their props, but not many. I also think we need more filters and certifications for coaches. Under FIBA, every coach has to be certified, and even if it's just the basics, the most simple things, it vets who really cares and who doesn't, who's willing to put in time and money to their craft and who's not. This could be huge here. And there are a lot more things, and don't get me wrong, again, there are a lot of pros to what we have going on here in the States. So if we can combine these things, that's big. But we'll see how it goes. We're definitely working hard on it here in our HQs in Miami and San Diego. So stay tuned with our progress.